Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today we are playing Burn. This is an archetype that everyone thinks is really bad in Legacy, and I think there's something here that we could maybe work with and make it better. And I would like to try and innovate on the Burn archetype. Because the most popular video I've ever put out on my channel by quite a considerable margin was a Burn deck, I think we're going to try and spend several videos over the course of like a few weeks or months trying to build up Burn and see if we can get something that works in the current power level of Legacy. I have tried out a few bits and pieces in the past, but now we're going to focus in a bit more and try and get things going. So, this deck is obviously trying to reduce your opponent's life total to 0. And we do that with some aggressive creatures like Monastery Swiftspear and Goblin Guide, and then a bunch of Burn spells. We all know this is what Burn has been doing time immemorial. However, I am throwing in a few extra bits and pieces that I want to test out here. I don't believe these numbers are correct at all, but I would like to try them out. Thunderous Wrath is a card that I have played in the past in Burn decks and been very impressed by. As long as it's not in your opening hand, this is just 1 mana, 5 damage. That is an incredible rate for a deck that wants to reduce your opponent's life total to 0. So we are playing 3 of these today to see if this is enough that we can have it reliably, but also not choke our opening hands with it. This is something I'm looking for today to see how this works out. It could end up being just a 2 of, but I think we want at least 2 of them, and we're going to go for the higher number and see how it feels. Another card that I've been impressed by when I've played Burn in the past was Grim Lavamancer. Now yes, this does die to Orcish Bowmasters. However, sometimes it doesn't, and this gives you a lot of board control to let your creatures get in, which is an important part of actually leveraging creatures in this deck, because it can be difficult when some of the creatures in Legacy are just so big and powerful that you can't attack into them. This can help you on that front, as well as give you a little bit more juice, because this can effectively be 4, 6, sometimes even 8 damage to the face, which is a lot for one card. I think last time I played this, we averaged out 4 damage off of this Grim Lavamancer, which is pretty good for 1 mana. I will take that. And it can also do some things against lifelink creatures, where it can block, and then it can shoot itself. That may not seem great, but that buys you a turn of them not getting lifelink. And sometimes you can keep your own graveyard in check with this, which maybe reduces the size of creatures like Barragoyf, for example. There is another creature in here that you are probably not expecting to see, Razorkin Needlehead. When I played this before, I was relatively impressed with it. People draw a lot of cards in Legacy, but this also just hits their normal card draw. So if you play this on turn 2, it gets 1 damage in immediately. If they cast any sort of cantrip, 2 damage, and then you've still got this body that can attack. And it gives you a way of getting through a matchup where your opponent's got some big things you can't attack through. This can slowly drain them out. Also, it has first strike during your turn, which is relevant for another card that you may not have been expecting to see in this deck. This is Monstrous Rage. So we tried a Monstrous Rage build, I don't know, a couple of months ago, something like that. And the Monstrous Rage looked good, but the other stuff we played around it, not so good. We tried like the mouse that got banned in Standard and all that sort of thing. But Monstrous Rage was actually pretty good. 1 mana, +2, +0 until end of turn, but they get a monster roll. Monster roll is +1/+1 and trample. So giving your big Swiftspear trample on its like massive go turn is kind of a big deal. Giving +2, well, technically +3 to your first strike attacker is a big deal and lets you push through and maybe kill some things like Barragoyf. Oh, I also forgot to mention, Thunderous Wrath dealing 5 damage is a nod to Barragoyf being a creature that we might have to remove sometimes. And this is a lot of damage for 1 mana, so it can quite often get it done. But yeah, so the Monstrous Rage is going to make our creatures able to attack longer. So like I said with Grim Lavamancer, being able to get more combat steps in with our little creatures means they're not going to be dead draws later on as much. So that's where the Monstrous Rage can kind of come in and help. And again, it is 1 mana for 3 damage, but every turn after you've cast this that you get to attack with a creature, it's an additional 1 damage because you still get the monster roll with it. And trample is quite often a huge deal. The rest of the deck is pretty much as you'd expect. We've got 4 Fireblast, 0 mana for 4 damage, sign me right up. We've got ourselves our Chain Lightnings, our Lightning Bolts, our Lava Spikes, and our Boltwaves. So 2 of these can't go to creatures, but then we have enough stuff that we should be able to clear out creatures and keep attacking with our guys if that's the better use of our mana. As for mana base, I've played 17 lands and 1 Simian Spirit Guide before. I want to try 17 lands and then an extra land being the Fiery Islet and see if this is better. This just gives us ability to stop ourselves flying out sometimes. Like the 18th land is an awkward one because you don't always want 18 lands in your deck, and this is kind of like the halfway house of that. In terms of the sideboard, I've got 3 Leyline of the Void. Oops All Spells is basically 5% of the meta, so we've got a 50-50 shot of hitting it in any given league. So I think it's worth having a little bit of hate for it that sometimes does other stuff as well. We've got some Searing Blaze, so when we're playing that creature removal game where we're beating down with our slightly greater number of creatures than you'd expect, this is going to really help out. A little bit of artifact destruction. We've got some Price of Progress for any decks playing a bunch of non-basics. And then we have 4 Roiling Vortex. This is doing 2 things. Firstly, we can pay 1 mana. Your opponents can't gain life this turn. That is enormous. That is going to stop us getting absolutely punked by a Barragoyf. Also, this is going to deal a little bit of chip damage over a few turns, a little bit like Razorkin Needlehead. So if we're struggling to get through stuff, this can just keep eating away at our opponent's life total. And then whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, this enchantment deals 5 damage to that player. That means if your opponent's trying to play out, I don't know, a bunch of 0 drops in their Patchwork Stompy deck, then you can just smash them up with this. So that's where we're having this, and we only have a couple of Smash to Smithereens because the Roiling Vortex is going to be doing good duty in that matchup, as well as also other combo matchups, stopping pitch counters, things like that. Well, not stopping them, but making the cost extreme. And that is what we're playing today. I do not think this deck is going to go 5-0 today. I don't think this is going to be like the perfect build. This is a fact-finding mission to see if there's some different ways that we can take Burn to make it a little bit stronger than what it's currently doing. And we've got a few things that we're keeping our eye on. And if you enjoy this video, let me know. If you want to see more Burn, I want to try and make several parts of like tuning up Burn to make it good. And a lot of that is going to be exploration. So let me know if this is your jam. It was a very popular video last time I played Burn, so I'd very much like to expand upon that. As well as, you know, this is a budget deck for Legacy. If we can make this deck into a good spot, that would be really handy for people trying to get into the format. This was once upon a time the entry deck to Legacy that a lot of people had. Let's see if we can revive that wonderful time. Okay, strap in, let's burn some people out. The new year is here, and what better time to clear out your unwanted cards than now? My lovely sponsors 3for1 Trading are buying all Magic cards and collections of any size. They will quickly appraise your collection and give you a fast, non-binding ballpark figure so you know what you're working with right away. They buy collections from anywhere in the world. You can ship them cards, arrange a courier, and they even make in-person visits for large collections to offer full peace of mind. Click the link in the description or visit 3for1.gg/sell-COW to start unloading your unwanted cards today. Okay, so our opener doesn't have a 1-drop source of repeatable damage, but we have 2 lands and 5 spells, which is pretty much where you want to be with Burn. Again, we are doing a fact-finding mission, so let's see how this goes. I will keep this. Because we don't really know where we want to point the Lightning Bolt, it's going to be a bit awkward to just go Mountain Pass on turn 1. Okay, Wasteland. Happy to see that because it doesn't impact us at all. And we drew a 1-drop. Things are certainly going our way so far. We need to work out if our opponent is a deck that's going to be drawing extra cards or not. If they are a deck that's trying to draw extra cards, Razorkin Needlehead can come in next turn. If they're not, we can try and reduce our opponent's life total, maybe reduce some options. Okay, double Wasteland for our opponent. That is pretty bad, isn't it? Another Needlehead. I think we're just going to get in with the Swiftspear. I think if they had removal, they would have just played a thing that removes stuff and gone with it. And now we're going to go for the Needlehead. This obviously shines in matchups with like Echo of Eons and Brainstorm and stuff like that. We don't really know what our opponent's on. They could be a tempo deck. They could be lands. Okay. Kaito. So we're probably looking at a blue-black deck. Probably in the fair ballpark because it's got Kaito, which means Barragoyf is going to be jamming us right up, I suspect. A third Wasteland. What is this hand, opponent? I think we play out this Fiery Islet. We Monstrous Rage on our Swiftspear. Get the Prowess trigger. So this is 1 mana plus 4 damage, effectively. Obviously, some of that is baked into the Monastery Swiftspear doing stuff. We could see ourselves lose this Fiery Islet to a Wasteland. Let's go for this Razorkin Needlehead. Okay, we're seeing another Force of Will. So they kept like some number of Wastelands plus double Force of Will as a hand. That is a choice you have, opponent. I think I would have a blue source. Okay, they found a blue source. But is it too late? 3 mana. What's going on here? Okay, they're just getting rid of our Fiery Islet. That might make it harder to empty our hand this turn. I'm a little bit worried about the Fatal Push coming down here. Okay, Monastery Swiftspear, let's get this in. I think I'm going to Lava Spike because the Chain Lightning can go to a creature if we need to kill something like a Barragoyf. This should be a big chunk of damage this turn. Our opponent's going to be at 3 life if these both connect, which is not the life total our opponent wants to be at when we're playing Lightning Bolt deck. I don't think Barragoyf is good enough anymore. They can't Force of Will both of these cards. The Razorkin Needlehead being good enough to get a Force of Will both times is interesting. The red Him to Turak, Razorkin Needlehead. Okay, so we got game 1, but now we got to worry about this annoying Barragoyf problem, which I'm not a fan of. Let's have some Roiling Vortexes, please. And do we want some Searing Blazes? They are going to have creatures, things like Orcish Bowmaster and stuff. Just being able to take them out is going to be relevant. The Price of Progress is going to do 2 damage for every land drop they make past the 3rd land drop, probably. Because they're going to play around this Price of Progress, I would assume. So what are the weaker looking elements of our list for this particular matchup? Lava Spike and Boltwave are basically the same thing. I like the things that actually remove stuff. So I'm more keen to like bin off some Lava Spikes to get in some Vortexes. I think like the chip damage here is pretty important. If I want Searing Blazes, we're probably going to have to get rid of... We could maybe trim a Fireblast since this game's going to go longer. I think I'm okay with trimming a Fireblast and then maybe it's just a couple of Boltwaves. That gets us our Searing Blazes in. If our opponent doesn't play creatures, our Searing Blazes won't be on. But if they don't have creatures, we're probably in an okay spot. So let's try it like this and see how we fare. Probably pull these out a bit more because there's not a lot of room when our curve is 25 1-drops. There is an argument that we need more Smash the Smithereens in our sideboard for the purpose of Chalice of the Void. But that's one of the things we're trying to find out today. 3 lands is too many lands, but the selection of spells are good here. I will keep this. Grim Lavamancer getting eaten by Orcish Bowmasters can be annoying, but we can potentially save it with a Monstrous Rage. Okay, another Goyf. And then they've got a Bauble, so this is going to be a 1-2. We have an option available to us here. We can go for the Swiftspear that isn't going to get any damage in this turn, or their opponent might not block. I actually like just getting the Grim Lavamancer up and running, because we can have it active on turn 2 because our fetch lands. If they just immediately play Orcish Bowmasters, then we're in trouble. But the Swiftspear not getting in any damage this turn means it's not really the thing I want to play. We can just use this as a setup turn to get our Lavamancer popping. Then they're going to go fetch land, grow this, play Orcish Bowmasters, kill our guy, and then we're going to be quite far behind. Why do 1-mana creatures get to be so big? Okay, it's a Ponder. This is going to put a sorcery in the graveyard though, so this Nethergoyf is not really going to be something we're tangling with. So we're going to be keeping a track of how much damage our Grim Lavamancer actually deals. We've got 1 black up, and they decline to shuffle their Ponder, so there's probably... Okay, it's another Nethergoyf. Play this guy out, and then we pump it by +4, +2. So it'll be a 4 power guy. If we don't get counterspelled, this looks like a good play. If we do get counterspelled, it looks like a bad play. We're always cracking this fetch land. This is a tricky choice. We can play the Vortex out, but this is symmetrical and could cause us some problems. I think we just have to get this Swiftspear in and try the Monstrous Rage plan. They might not block here, in which case we can fire off a Grim Lavamancer activation. I suspect they do block, and we get blown out by something. Okay, they didn't block. What does that make me want to do? I could Monstrous Rage this now, and just get through the damage. I think that's what I want to do. There's an option there of just using our Lavamancer, but we don't necessarily have the food to pop it 2 turns in a row reliably. Okay, this is a big hit for 5. They get to clap back for 6, but this continues to have its monster roll. I think this Monstrous Rage is looking pretty good so far. We're only in our first round, but I've been impressed with the amount of damage it puts out. Okay, so now we lose the Lavamancer. This is annoying, but we have to trample on the Monastery Swiftspear, so they can't just get walled by the Orcish Bowmasters. We're going to take a big crunch for 6, I would imagine here. Yeah, they need to get the beats going. 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're dead to if we crack this fetch. We're dead to if we play this Roiling Vortex. This is 2 damage. So this is 4, 8 damage. 8, 9, 10. And then next time we'd have to draw Fireblast to get through here. Although they're going to block some amount of it, which is going to change the amount of damage that they can clap back with. But I think that's fine. Let's get them Chain Lightning'd up. Am I playing Boltwave or am I playing this Roiling Vortex? If we play the Roiling Vortex, they just don't block is the problem. So I think we're just going to... I think we play out our mountain first in case there's a daze. And then we Boltwave. This is going to give us a 4 power attacker. Our opponent's going to be at 8. Going to soak up any of this damage. They are. They're going to soak up a lot of the damage. But the trample, again, doing some real work. This Monstrous Rage definitely feels like a good card. It felt good last time I played it in Legacy in a burn list. And I think today is showing that. Okay, they're going to 5. So Thunderous Wrath is lethal at this point. Can we have a New Year's Miracle, please? They left the card on top. Maybe it's just Barragoyf and they're like, okay, we just slam Barragoyf and we just immediately draw our Thunderous Wrath and then they get ruined. That would be nice. Black, black. Are we getting him to Turat? Sure. They have 8 damage coming in now. I think they attack with one guy, not two. Just play Sword and Shield because it's lethal attack next turn anyway. Okay, they're coming in with both. That seems very risky. They might have a Hydroblast in hand. They don't have a Hydroblast. They have a Tamiyo. Alright, Thunderous Wrath off the top, please. Not Thunderous Wrath. So we are on blocks ourselves now. We're giving our opponent a real game here. And we get to be on the play for the next game, which is going to be a big deal. Removal spell kills us here. Orcish Bowmasters kills us. Don't like the tapping of the black mana there. They should have just Thoughtseize. Alright, we'll concede that game because we are dead on board now. We run that one very close. We had a draw that could have won us the game. That felt pretty competitive. Do I like how I've sideboarded? Yes, although the Grim Lavamancer is awkward in this matchup. Would I prefer something else to Grim Lavamancer? Should we try and get some Boltwaves and sort of jazz in there? They did have a bunch of stuff that the price of progress was probably worth 4 damage. Looking at that setup. They weren't really playing around it. I want to try and get some price of progress in. It feels like an easy thing for our opponent to play around is the issue. Maybe we'll get this Fireblast. This is always 4 damage. And then maybe we'll just be a bit cowardly and just take these. It's not that cowardly because these are pumping our creatures. This is going to make the prowess work on our Swiftspear. If we draw a land, this hand slaps pretty hard. I'm willing to take that shot. Alright, front foot forward. Here comes the Swiftspear. Fetch land. It's probably going to get a Surveil if they're not doing anything with it right now. We missed on the land. That is awkward. But we still have spells to cast. See if we can get in another 2 points off this Swiftspear. This fetch land will also take them down a little bit too. Alright, they're doing it before damage, which suggests we might be getting hit by a Fatal Push. There's a non-basic. Our opponent not playing around price progress. Okay, we're just going blue mana here. Hydroblasting our guy. Same but different. Okay, we're a quarter of the way there. I would like to draw a land this turn, please. Yes, I'll reveal Thunderous Wrath. I will cast this Thunderous Wrath at our opponent's dome. 5 damages. Okay, we're halfway there. If we find a land, we can burn up this and deal our opponent damage. The good thing about Searing Blaze is the way it's worded, that they're both targets. So if we target this and they flip it, we still get the 3 damage to the face. If our opponent misses a land drop, that's going to be huge for us. Because that takes them a turn away from doing any sort of Barragoy stuff. Their hand is obviously going to be stacked with interaction. Let's go for the Swiftspear. It's repeatable damage. We're getting Hydroblasted. I don't think they have more than 2 Hydroblasts in their deck. Okay, they're getting a Daze going. Sure. Unfortunately, we don't get to do anything here. But we took a card out of our opponent's hand and we took them further away from Barragoy, which is their great stabilizing card. Murktide Regent could be a stabilizer. Because we can't attack through it. But it doesn't stabilize their life total. It just stabilizes their board. Alright, in comes a Tamiyo. They haven't got the mana to start cracking clues yet. And maybe we can punish that with the Needlehead. Oh, deck, why you do this to me? Okay, we're just going to hold up this Lightning Bolt. Kept to 1 lander. This was a thing that could have happened for sure. I think if this was a land, we're just stone cold set to win the game. You can keep cracking your clues. They're not doing anything with their Tamiyo. I'm going to ignore the Tamiyo and go to their face. Okay, they're on 7. Deck. Please. So this is Monstrous Rage not looking good. But the problem here isn't that we have Monstrous Rage in our deck. The problem here is that we're not drawing lands. I'm going to crack a clue, I would assume. There it goes. Enjoy. So they might be wary about trying to flip their Tamiyo in case we burn it up in response and they just really want to get the backside going. Because getting back the Hydroblast is kind of a big deal. It's a 1 mana counter any spell that we play. I don't really want any part of that. They didn't attack with this Tamiyo last turn, but they are attacking this turn. That suggests to me they've got a creature they're about to play. So Barragoy, okay, they didn't play a creature. They're having to go to cleanup. Wowzers trousers. Did you really not have a spell you could play? They're really determined to hold stuff up. Okay, we have a mountain now. Roiling Vortex will start chipping away our opponent. So will the Razorkin Needlehead. If they have removal spells, we haven't really tested that much. Although they use Hydroblast. You wouldn't use Hydroblast if you had a Fatal Push in hand that turn. Unless you really wanted... No, they got the Underground Sea, didn't they? So, I don't think they have the Fatal Push. We're just going to try this Needlehead. This represents 3 damage a turn cycle. Plus Monstrous Rage damage. Whereas Roiling Vortex is 1 damage a turn cycle. This is definitely going to get eaten by a Fatal Push. Yep, okay. We're going to see a clue crack. So now they're at a multiple of 3. We have lethal damage in hand, sort of. A Bowmasters. Yep, that's not very exciting. But they do need to get a clock going. We're just trying to dodge Barragoyf. If I were them, I'd have probably been tempted to crack a clue trying to dig to the Barragoyf. I think the game just comes down to them having Barragoyf or not at this stage, and whether or not our spells resolve. So they're leaving back the Bowmasters. We have Trample on our thing, if we can get the Monstrous Rage off. A Brainstorm. Okay, so now they're deciding it's time to flip Tamiyo. We don't want them to be able to Hydroblast our Fireblast. We're not in a situation where we need to do that yet. Tamiyo goes upstairs. They're playing a Ponder. Would have loved to have had a Razorkin Needlehead in play. Because they're not playing a Barragoyf, we don't have to commit the Roiling Vortex yet. Although the Roiling Vortex does kill them in 2 turns alongside this Fireblast. A Nethergoyf. Okay, so they've got a reasonable chunk of damage. Let's see what we draw. Searing Blaze. That's not really the one we want here. Do we get the Needlehead in, or do we just get the Roiling Vortex in and just get the guaranteed chip shots off of this that's harder to interact with? They can just go and get back the Hydroblast. I think I'm going to go for the Vortex. Daze is good here. Another Hydroblast. Okay, they had their second Hydroblast. If we'd have just drawn a second land instead of like the second Needlehead early on, I think we would have won this game ages ago. It's still pretty close, and we have a chance of winning. But they can minus this Tamiyo and get back the Hydroblast. That's the best play that they can do with the Tamiyo. I think racing to the top doesn't make sense here. Just keep the game under control. It means our Searing Blaze can technically kill this Tamiyo if that's the thing we're interested in. But I think every point of damage matters. Him to Turak. Well, we can't cast our hand anyway. Searing Blaze and Razorkin Needlehead. Honestly, not too bothered by that. This 5/6 guy, though, I say they're getting back to Hydroblast. I don't think I am going to dome our opponent with this Fireblast right now. They're coming in with just this. They're keeping back some blockers. We've got some turns, though. Draw an extra card. A Monstrous Rage. So now the Monstrous Rage is not looking like my best friend. We're going to probably have to Searing Blaze an Orcish Bowmaster soon. That seems so bad, though. Right, plussing up the Tamiyo again. Next turn, this can get back another Hydroblast. So we kind of want to make our opponent use a Hydroblast. We're coming in with just the Nethergoyf. This is interesting, because they go with everything. It's a 2-turn clock. I think we are... I would like to discard 2 Monstrous Rages, please. I think we just let this hit. Okay, we didn't discard 2 Monstrous Rages. Not an ideal situation there. We're not going to play this Searing Blade. I think we are just looking pretty dead here. It just took too long for us to find our second land, and we couldn't leverage all the cards in our hand. A Fireblast. 5, 6, 7. So we haven't got a lot of time left. Tamiyo returning the Hydroblast. Yep, you got it, boss. We need some weird stuff to happen here. I don't think it's going to happen. But we're going to be running our opponent extremely close. And if this was just like regular burn spells, maybe we get there this time. So this is a little tick against the Monstrous Rage. Like earlier on, the Monstrous Rage was just limited because we didn't have the mana we needed. Target player, and we'll take this guy out. This is not a very exciting Searing Blaze. It does put our opponent in Thunderous Wrath range. But they are sat over there with 2 Hydroblasts. This is going to be an impenetrable wall of counter magic. But I think we've played a very competitive game here. Put our opponent to 5. Fiery Islet. Let's draw a card. Oh, I made a mistake here. I should have drawn in our opponent's turn in case we drew a Thunderous Wrath. That was just a little misstep there. It didn't end up mattering, and it's not going to matter when our opponent has 2 Hydroblasts in hand. Go on, be greedy. Tap out for both of your clues. We can still only put our opponent to 1 here. Unfortunately, this is us dead. We had a really competitive game. We just got mana screwed. And that was it, really. A single land slightly earlier. I think our chances of getting over those last few points of damage before our opponent sets up the Tamiyo Hydroblast loop is just really good for us. So I'm pretty happy with how the deck performed. The Monstrous Rage felt great in the first game and felt a little bit bad in the last game. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Let's move to round 2. Well, this is not a hand we're keeping. Let's mulligan this. This hand has got 2 lands, a bunch of spells. I think we keep this. I don't know how many of these creatures we actually want to have. I think we get rid of the Swiftspear. Because how long are these creatures going to be able to keep putting damage down? I think we're just going to go double guide. Or we're going to go guide spike, or guide bolt, depending on what our opponent does. Because we might need to bolt some creatures to make these connect multiple times. We're on the draw. Not always ideal. This is the one turn we don't want to draw Thunderous Wrath. Which, obviously, I've said is now going to be the thing that happens. Thoughtseize. You're going to take a Goblin Guide would be my guess here. It's a repeatable source of damage. It's mostly going to be, yeah, it's probably going to be 4 damage against our opponent. This is the one turn we don't want to draw Thunderous Wrath. We didn't draw it. Okay, we're going to use this fetch land for the marginal thinning capabilities. Just get a land out of our deck. It's free to do, really. Let's try and mash in with a Goblin Guide. We get some information about the top of our opponent's deck, potentially. If this was actually, they draw the card, I would prefer that, because then we could trigger things like Razorkin Needlehead and have a little bit of extra synergy going. But they put the land into their hand. There is that swamp we know about. We're going to get fatal pushed. We are getting fatal pushed. Now we don't have a reliable source of damage. I kind of wish we had this Swiftspear. But I kind of wish we didn't have this mountain, really. A Boltwave. Okay, I would like to Lava Spike my opponent here. We're just going to play around Dazes. We don't need to leverage these right now. Also, this lines us up for Swiftspear off the top being a better draw. We can play these both around a Daze on the following turn. So we've got 6 more damage we need to find from the top of our deck. And Undercity Sewers is not a Barragoyf. Blue and black. Katara Waterbending Master. Do I care about Katara Waterbending Master? Doesn't seem great, to be honest. It's quite a slow ramping up thing. I'd rather not keep drawing these lands. That is a bigger problem. Let's go for a Boltwave. And then we can Lightning Bolt on their turn so that they can't get any counters on Katara. Reanimate isn't the thing we're worried about because their life total is going to be pretty sketchy to be casting the card Reanimate. If they have Animate Dead, that's a different kettle of fish. But I don't think we're going to play around them having Animate Dead here. They've shown us Fatal Push, and these decks, if they're Reanimated decks, maybe struggle to fit in the Fatal Push. It could just be a one-off Fatal Push they happen to get. They didn't discard. So it could just be on like fair stuff here. Do I need to play this Lightning Bolt out now, or do I save it for Prowess? I think we save it for Prowess. I will crack this Fetch Land though. Just get that marginal thinning. The reason we're playing Fetch Lands is for the Lavamancer though. Okay, I'm going to cast a Boltwave again. That's a third of our opponent's life total. Am I playing this mountain out to play around? I don't want our opponent to know that we only have 1 burn spell in hand after we cast this. I don't think Spell Pierce is what we're looking at in our opponent's deck. It's possible though, and we might get blown out for not playing around it. Orcish Bowmasters. So now they're going to be able to loot with this Katara. But they are 1 more draw from our part away from losing this one. Again, I don't think we Lightning Bolt. We hold this for Prowess. Also, casting multiple spells in 1 turn tends to be better. Because you get that flurry where they can't interact with every spell because you're playing a bunch of 1-drops. They discarded a Fatal Push. Does that mean they have another Fatal Push, or does that mean they have no care about us having another creature? They could play a blocker. Okay, we're not going to play this Lightning Bolt for the reasons we mentioned before. We're going to draw another mountain. We didn't draw another mountain. I'm going to play this mountain out, and we're going to go to our opponent's turn. Okay, I'm going to Lightning Bolt them in response to this Ponder. I'm getting a Force of Will for our troubles. Okay. Again, we're going to hold this Lightning Bolt now. Shuffled off the Ponder. There is a Wasteland. That does not matter. 3 damage is not a particularly big amount. Yeah, the Katara is pretty bad at actually clocking people. Okay, deck. That is a land. Do I take the marginal thinning here? I think we're going to hold this in hand. I think having 2 cards in hand is going to make our opponent play the game differently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're almost hard casting Thunderous Wrath territory, which is not where we want to be. We've nearly got a third of the lands out of our deck in just a quarter of our deck. But again, the clock is very, very slight. We're not just getting bodied by this. So now we have to consider hardcast Force of Will. I'm just getting rid of another Fatal Push. So that's all 4 Fatal Pushes accounted for. So we're quite likely to be able to get in with a hasty creature if we find one. Okay, so now they're tapping out a Force of Will mana. Is this just going to be a Murktide Regent? I would assume so. How big is this? 8. So we are dead on the next turn. Understood. A Goblin Guide. This is not the card we wanted to draw. Is there a way we can make our opponent make a mistake here? If they crack this Polluted Delta, they're not going to, because this would just open them up to Fireblast. There's no reason for them to crack this. We don't have Fireblast in our hand, but it's just something I'm thinking about. Let's just Lightning Bolt them and see if they interact. We might see a little bit more information if they've got any weird, like Spell Pierce type stuff in hand. Alright, and we're just dead. I just wanted to see if they interacted with that. We should have waited to see what they pitch with the Katara. They don't need to pitch anything and give us information there. But they might have reacted to our Lightning Bolt. Okay, so if we drew 1 less land, we win that game. That's very much how that happened. I'm going to try getting rid of these Lavamancers in favour of Searing Blazes. I have to assume there are Barragoyfs, so we're going to need these. And I kind of like the Price of Progress as well, but I'm not sure how we're going to fit it in. So Roiling Vortex, I'm going to trim a Monstrous Rage. I don't really want to get bottlenecked on those like we did in the previous round. We're just learning here. That's what we're doing. So Lava Spike and Boltwave are our weakest ones. I guess we just take out another Lava Spike. This can hit Planeswalkers, so it's probably actually better than... I didn't realise it could hit Planeswalkers. It's probably better than Boltwave for that reason. I don't think we care about them targeting. It's not like they're going to have like the one... Well, the One Ring doesn't matter because they have protection. But if there's things that give people Shroud or whatever, then Boltwave gets through that. I'm pretty happy with this setup. Again, I think the margins we lost by that game were obviously minuscule. We drew 5 lands in 14 cards, which is statistically very unlikely, because that's nearly a third of our lands. We got one of these hands, have we? If we draw a land, this hand is great. I think we're supposed to keep hands that look like this, you know? Maybe we're not. But if we can go Goblin Guide into Monstrous Rage, I'm going to feel pretty good about that. Let's go and get a Mountain. Is this worth a Force of Will to your opponent? Might be. We're guaranteed 2 damage. An Orcish Bowmaster, that stays on top. I don't want to play the Monstrous Rage into a Fatal Push. So if they cast like a Tameo or something here, that can give us some good news. Okay, it's just a Ponder. So now we're definitely going to try and cast this Monstrous Rage. They declined to shuffle. Can we draw a land? 1-time deck. No. Alright, let's Monstrous Rage this guy up. This is +4 damage. Oh, sorry, +3 damage and then +1 damage for each subsequent turn. And the trample was kind of a big deal too. That is a Murktide Regent. So you can play Pyroblast in your sideboard to help with things like Murktide Regent. So Orcish Bowmasters can come down. We have a 3/3 guy here. We've got a land. That's an important one to have access to, isn't it? Let's play the land out. Let's go to attacks. We have Trample, so we can just Searing Blaze and go right over the top here. There's a Tammy on top of their library. Are we flashing in a Bowmasters to block? We are indeed. They're going to ping this one down. Oh, this is going to be an absolute blowout if this works. So we're going to double block here, and then we're going to Searing Blaze one of them. Because we have landfall as well. Does it matter which one? Probably not. I think we take out the Arc Army, because it can be bigger in general. If this resolves, our opponent is in trouble. Okay, so we hit them there. This then tramples over and doesn't die. It's our little Tiny Tim, who did not die. Okay, let's... I think this game is very over. We got 13 points of burn in hand. Oh, a Barragoyf. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. 5 cards in our opponent's hand. Do we think they have Force of Negation, is a question. Let's Lava Spike our opponent. Let's Lava Spike our opponent. We can Fireblast here. If they counterspell this, I don't think we do. Okay, so there's a Daze. So we can let this connect once, and we still have 7 damage. This is the moment where things can go wrong, but they want to get the lifelink in, but this means they need to deal with this Goblin Guide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they can just play a modest Murktide Regent. Actually, no, it's going to be bigger because they're milling over with the Barragoyf. Not another Barragoyf. Plenty of food for the Murktide. So they play a blue source, they play this Murktide, and we can't attack with our Goblin Guide. We know one of the cards in our opponent's hand. They got 4 mystery cards. This could be Barragoyf just tipping this game. If this card didn't exist, then Burn would be in a much better spot for sure. Let's go for a Chain Lightning to the Dome, please. Oh, we got it there. So we're going to float a mana, and then we're going to Fireblast our opponent's face. Did we get that? Yeah, we got there. We took a hit from Barragoyf and kept on chugging. Alright. I like how that worked out for us. Once again, the Monstrous Rage looked absolutely banging there. Big fan of how that looked. I think we submit again. That was also a Barragoyf that would have died to a Thunderous Wrath. So there's a little bit of proof of concept there. We're on the draw. I'm definitely keeping a 1-lander on the draw with like these things. We might struggle to leverage the second Fireblast, but this game could drag on a bit. We're just seeing a Tameo. Oakley dokley. Is it more damage here to play out the Swiftspear right now, and then next time we can double spell and pump it? Or do we just get a spell in now? It is more damage technically if we play the Swiftspear. We also have the option of lightning bolting their Tameo. which I honestly think is worth doing here. That card is not okay. We don't want them getting Hydroblast loops like our opponent had in the previous game. We're set up with a lot of tools. We need time to draw the land to leverage them. So I'm okay slowing this game down a bit. Could you not, though? And there's a wasteland that we don't care about. Okay, we found the land. So we get to go Swiftspear. And we can attack and see what they do, because our spells are instants. So block, we can get the Monstrous Rage going. I don't think they're going to block. Right, then we'll Lightning Bolt this Tamiyo now. And get the Prowess trigger for damages. They didn't daze last time, but they knew they had another Tamiyo coming, so it's perfectly possible they daze here. They did not. So we get to crack in for a little bit of damage. Our opponent's not got the most amount of stuff going on here, but like Big Daddy Barragoyf is a problem. Just a Ponder, so no Barragoyf this turn. Big fan of that. They decline to use Ponder's ability. Fatal Push on my poor little guy. So we might struggle to convert this Monstrous Rage into damage. Am I playing this out? I don't think I am. Because if we play this out, we don't have a land for a Searing Blaze we could draw. So we may as well hold this in hand. It just gives us a little bit more power off of that card. Right, nothing from our opponent. If we draw another mountain, we can play it and just save this one for later. A Wooded Foothills. Okay, that allows us to play the land and save the land for when we need to Fireblast. For when we need to Searing Blaze. So now we can play our lands because we have an active one. So we've got 8 damage in hand, plus potentially 3 if we can find a creature to stick it on. Alright, we're just staring at one another for a bit. I don't hate that for us. Another Wooded Foothills. We can play this one out and start getting rid of our bits and pieces. So I've played builds of Burn with Dragon's Rage Channeler before, and that does smooth out your draws a little bit, which is something that Burn obviously likes a great deal. The problem is you have to play a bunch of cards that aren't so good, like your baubles and stuff, which isn't really what you want to be doing, which makes things like Thunderous Wrath weaker. And I think we need to be playing things like Thunderous Wrath. I'm going to take one mountain out of my deck. A Goblin Guide. I will deploy Goblin Guide. Is it going to get removed? Seems likely. They're probably going to want to get their card off of it for free first. Oh, Barragoyf. Not my friend. Hydroblast. You got it, boss. This Barragoyf. It's not the one for us, is it? How big is it? Creature. Okay, we just wait for them to play it and then work it out. Let the client do the maths. 4/5. That is large, isn't it? If we draw a Searing Blaze, we've got a good stab at killing this. Do we thin the deck for the marginal thing for the Searing Blaze right now? Or not? I don't think we do. A Goblin Guide, you say? We have a line here. It's not a great line. But they're tapped out over there. I don't think they block here. A Kaito. I don't like that very much. Surely you want to take this. I don't think they should block. Okay, so they're not blocking. So we will pump our guy and make him large. Force of Will. Pitching a Kaito they have in hand because they know they have a Kaito on top. But we still managed to get 2 damage through. Now, the downside here is our opponent has no shortage of damages. Am I playing out this mountain? I think I'm okay to play out the mountain. Because we have the ability to go and get another mountain for our Searing Blaze whenever. Not a big fan of 3-mana Baneslayer Angels. They're going to mill over. They're going to find another Barragoyf. They did not find another Barragoyf. They could have put in a Kaito at end step as well if they wanted to. We have 10 damage available, so a Thunderous Wrath can kill our opponent this turn. A Razorkin Needlehead. Do we play this pre-combat? I think so. Pitching that Kaito that we knew about. Understood. I don't think this creature's blocking, so here goes nothing. A Ponder. A lot of people respecting the Razorkin Needlehead, though. That's something we're seeing today. So they're going to go up to 16, then we put them down to 14, and we've got another 8 in hand. So that's 6. So we have no lines that kill our opponent next turn. Thunderous Wrath can kill this Barragoyf, but they're probably going to find another one quite soon. Okay, Orchid Master's pretty good into my Goblin Guide. I really do detest Barragoyf as a card design. I think the world would be a better place without this card existing. That's not just because I'm playing Burn right now. Huh. 12, 13, 14. There's no point attacking here because the Bowmasters just kills our guy and it just doesn't really work out very well for us. Whereas we can buy more draw steps by blocking the Barragoyf. They might also think about the Monstrous Rage. Can I just take another 4? They're going to be at 20 life. That's so much. I think we just take the 4 here. If they hit another Barragoyf, then sure. We lose to the busted Modern Horizons commander card. Sure. Okay. Orcish Baymasters. Katara Waterbending Master. Monstrous Rage. That gives us the ability to kill their Barragoyf in combat if nothing else happens. Because this gives us +3. So we end up with a 5 power guy that trades with Barragoyf. The question, of course, becomes then what? This game looks very over to me. They're going to flash in this guy, which is going to put a counter on the Katara. Alright, let's get blown out. What are you doing with your Katara? Are you discarding anything? You're discarding a Wasteland. Seems like a good... I'm surprised they didn't board out the Wastelands. I guess they're playing around... Okay, that's just game over, isn't it? I guess they're just playing around Price of Progress by keeping some Wastelands in. Okay, so obviously that game looked absolutely brutal. But if we think about how this whole match went... The first game, we lost because we drew like a third of the lands in our deck in 14 cards. Game 2, we absolutely slaughtered our opponent. Game 3, we got rumbled by Barragoyf. So, really, the way that this match was lost for us was the first game. This game getting beaten by the Barragoyf, whatever. But it was just drawing lands on the first time. I think we can afford to lose one game to Barragoyf in a set. We just need to not lose to the Mana Flood or Mana Screw, which has been the first 2 rounds so far. On to round number 3. Round 3, 1 land. We're on the play. We have the Thunderous Wrath. It's already a mulligan anyway, so I'm going to take this mulligan. Okay, I think we keep this one. We probably just have to ship this Monstrous Rage. We don't have anything to go with it. I don't particularly like this hand. Our opponent's mulligan to 5. Are we just going to get oopsed? Oops is a deck where if you want to tech against it to beat it, you can play a bunch of cards. You'll never beat the god hands they have. But you'll be able to beat the majority of their hands if you really want to do that. Underground Mortuary. What does this mean? Honestly, not a clue. Oh, okay, now I know. Now we know. This could be pretty bad for us. Or it could be pretty good for us. We can turn off Actual Reanimate. If they had Actual Reanimate, they would have fired it in right now. I think it is our duty to reduce our opponent's life total as much as possible here. I could Chain Lightning here. Just get another bit of damage in. I think we're going to do that. If they reanimate, they take 8, but then gain 3, so they take 5. So that puts them to 6, so they are dead to Bolt. Obviously, we don't get Bolt because we have to discard a card. If they animate dead here, though, that is a different kettle of fish, and we're probably just dead to this. Turbo Reanimator is actually the best performing deck in Legacy right now, believe it or not. And there's a whole different selection of builds that you can play for it. Thunderous Wrath does not kill this. This is life gain. I think we are going to lose this one. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. We'll do the things that we have. Boltwave. Bolt your face, because we're going to lose these cards anyway. Puts our opponent down to 8, but they're going to go back up to 11. So they're gaining 3 life a turn. But we're also dead in 2 hits, right? No, 3 hits, because we're on 17, and this hits for 8 a turn. So we get 3 draw steps. I think. So we get 1 draw step. They hit us again. No, we get 2 draw steps. Can I deal 11 damage in 2 draw steps? Probably not. Certainly not with a mountain. We are just dead there. Yeah, sometimes the combat deck's going to go underneath you. I guess I would like some Leyline of the Voids, please. Price of Progress is probably going to be good for 2 to 4 damage. That's not a big deal. The Vortex does some stuff, but not the most. Razorkin Needlehead is going to be probably too slow here. Let's get these Leylines in. Although if we are... They're not playing the Faithless Looting build either, so I don't think that's what we're doing. So we get 1 more spell here. We could just put in like a Roiling Vortex to stop some of the life gain. We could try and put more Roiling Vortexes in to stop more of the life gain. How do I feel about Grim Lavamancer? It's pretty slow to leverage, so let's just do that. I don't think our creatures are going to die, so the Monstrous Rage is probably going to be very good here and be worth like 5 damage a pop, because we're probably going to get 2 hits in with a guy, maybe 3. That gets us up to 5 damage off the 1 card. We have the Leyline, but the rest of our hand is abysmal. Do I think our opponent can beat Leyline? I think they can, and they probably beat it with Witherbloom Apprentice. Do I want to keep 4 lands in my burn deck, though? We only have 3 Leylines, so trying to find more is a little bit sketchy. I think we do keep this, and we are the control in this matchup. So we beat Witherbloom Apprentice combo because of our Lightning Bolts. And then we also beat the graveyard because of our Leyline the Void. Now, there are green decks. They could have Nature's Claim or something to blow it up. That is a possibility. They could also have blue mana and just pivot into Show and Tell. They've got Lotus Petals. They might be able to go and find like a one-of Undercity Sewers or something. I don't think we saw the Undercity Sewers last time, did we? It was just Underground Mortuary. Okay, they do have Underground Sea, so Show and Tell is online in their deck. That is a pretty big disaster for us. If they Thought Seize us, our hand is terrible. If they Duress us, we don't even get the 3/2 life. Oh dear. We are going to get absolutely ruined here. Let's go and get a mountain and Thunderous Wrath our opponent. Miracle Trigger resolves. Miracle your face. 5 damages, please. And I'll play out this fetch land. We need our opponent to not Show and Tell for a couple of turns, and we need to draw well, and then we'll be okay. I guess if they Show and Tell in and Atraxa, we get a turn before the life gain happens, whereas the Archon Cruelty gains them a little bit of life immediately. So maybe Atraxa ends up being a better thing for them to Show and Tell in for us. Black, black. I don't just want to fire off a lightning bolt. We have prowess and stuff. Collective Brutality. Okay, I guess we are firing off this. To the Dome. They're also draining life for 2 here. Pitch to Cabal Therapy. So now we are living off the top. But we have shut down our opponent's main strategy. I would love to get in with my Swiftspear and deal 1 damage to you. Ideally, I'd like to deal more than 1 damage. Play Bloodstained Mire and pass. So we are now at Show and Tell mana. We're just going to see another Collective Brutality killing my guy. And draining life. I suspect that's what's happening. Yep. Pretty annoying. I will crack this in my upkeep. There is Marginal Thinning available. A Chain Lightning. Because they have hand disruption, we're going to fire this now. But there is an argument to hold it for prowess. But I think given the amount of hand disruption our opponent's deck contains, we're better off just converting it into actual damage. We're going to see an Underground Mortuary here. Oh no, it's just an Undercity Sewers. And milled over a Shallow Grave. They didn't have a Show and Tell last turn, otherwise we would have cast it. Or Show and Tell plus monster, I should say. They could have half of that. Okay, deck. Be good to me. Monstrous Rage. That is not great, is it? I will hold on to this. If we get Archon Cruelty, maybe we can like draw a creature, attack with it, Monstrous Rage to pump it, and then trade with it in combat. So by keeping this, we have a card to discard to an Archon Cruelty. A Fireblast. That is not good enough. What a strange game. Yep, milling over the Reanimate makes sense. Maybe we do want Price of Progress in game 3. If we can slow the game down like this and all of a sudden have 8 damage out of nowhere. We're pretty close to killing our opponent if we had a... Oh, I was going to say if we had a Price of Progress. Okay, we're just going to play this mountain out now. Because I'm pretty happy to discard a Monstrous Rage at this point. If they duress us, we will Fireblast them. To the Dome. So they're also going to drain life here. So we can go up to 7. So if we were playing Price of Progress, we would have lethal. Just 1 card lethal in our deck. So if we get a game 3, I think we're going to try the Price of Progress out here. Could you not, deck? Okay, there's a mountain. Lotus Petal, I don't think that really matters here. I guess they can Dark Ritual their way to actually hard casting a big monster soon. And that is quite terrifying. Leyline the Void, not a good draw. This is something we can pitch if we have to an Archon Cruelty at least. Bloodstained Mire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if they have the Dark Ritual, they can cast the big boy. They've got the mana to cast an Attractor as well. Yep. Here comes the... Oh, it's just Grizzlebrand. That is an interesting one. Can we punish this in any way, shape or form? No. If they just gain 7 life, I don't think we get to win this game. So I think we're just going to scoop it up there. Alright, that didn't go very well for us. We just got comboed out in the first game. In the second game, we drew kind of poorly with like a bunch of Monstrous Rages. So this is another tick against Monstrous Rage. So it's been looking good and it's been looking bad. It's kind of, well, this has been looking great or terrible and nothing in between, which is interesting. On to round number 4. A 1-lander. We've been keeping 1-landers. I'm not going to stop now. You can't stop me. The Goblin Guide. If we fire land, the Swiftspear can come in for 2 next turn. They've mulliganed to 6. We might just be able to undo their mulligan with our little Goblin Guide though. Mountain, Goblin Guide, to the face. Give me some information. A Stifle. This is possibly Dreadnought or it's possibly the blue-white Felia control decks. Or there's various Felia decks. There's control decks and there's blink decks and all sorts. Okay, we didn't quite hit what we wanted to here. So let's just get in this Swiftspear. There is a Daze lined up for our opponent if they want it. We can't really do much about that. They're probably going to let us attack and then plow our Goblin Guide after the trigger. Stoneforge Mystics. This is probably the Felia Blink deck or Felia Stoneblade. Alright, we just got in our damages. We don't actually have a way of killing the Stoneforge Mystic at present, which is kind of wild in our deck full of burn spells. We've got 3, 6, 9 damage in hand, plus these Fireblasts that we might be able to leverage. Now, our opponent's deck contains the card Batterskull, which I assume is what is getting fetched right now. There it is. So this would be a great time to draw a mountain, is the worst case scenario I was going to say. Here we go. Red, Lava Spike you. This grows. So if we shoot them down again, they go to 8. And then this is 2 damage, 3, 4 damage, 5 damage. So that puts them to 3. So we dead to the Fireblast. I Fireblast their face right now. It's a bold play. I'm going to float the mana first, so we can play around a Daze here. We're just going to ignore this Batterskull, I think, and go to the Dome. And force our opponent to block with Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. Here comes another Lava Spike. So our opponent has to block or they're dead here, right? Oh, they're just dead anyway, right? So this takes them... Okay, they did have a Daze that we played around. So we attack with all creatures. If we draw a land, our opponent dies. We can't use any fetch lands. A mountain, and we just Boltwave our opponent for lethal. Because they're going to play out that land again. They're going to activate their Stoneforge Mystic to get Batterskull in. So if we draw a land and we just Boltwave their face, then we're laughing. Alternatively, that doesn't happen, and then we have some other problems. Our opponent's on 1 life. Oh, so close. If that Caracas had been a fetch land instead. Now, the big problem with Batterskull, from our perspective, aside from the lifelink, is the vigilance. I think we were right to put ourselves in a position to just win the game. We could have Fireblasted targeting the Stoneforge Mystic, and maybe just tried to beat down over a few turns. That was another option available to us. And maybe we just lose to this. But if our opponent doesn't have a Daze, they have to block with the Stoneforge. And then they're just sort of dead. Alright, maybe we play this one differently. We Fireblast the Stoneforge. We get in for that damage. Our opponent ends up being on 5 at this point in the game, but they don't have anything. It's getting hard when we don't have lands. Picking up Burn, just as the Stoneforge Mystic decks are making a comeback in Legacy, is an awkward position to be, especially since they are choosing Batterskull over Cauldron Complete right now. Their big expensive equipment is Meteor Sword instead. Okay, I think if they gain 8 more life, we just pack it up. It's possible we still win this game. It just feels pretty miserable. Maybe if we Fireblast this, it ends up better for us. We didn't know they had a Daze. Are we supposed to play around Daze? I wonder how this game pans out if we do it. We obviously still don't have lands if we do that. We just have to sort of get in for 3 damage over and over again. That's not really very good either. But maybe would have been enough. Because our opponent would have been on a life total that was low enough. And they haven't really shown us anything else that's doing much from their hand. They are just all in on this Batterskull. Alright, I've convinced myself that we made a mistake by not Fireblasting this Stoneforge now. The Riddler. So they can stifle this. I think we're done here actually. Because they're going to stifle this so it stays in. I don't really want to continue playing that game. Okay. So, creature removal is very, very good here. I would like my Searing Blazes in. Smash the Smithereens is pretty good against their equipments. Is that better than Roiling Vortex? Roiling Vortex is going to chip away at their life total. What life gain do they have? It's just the Batterskull and plying their own guys. This will chip in for damage, but this will make our opponent spend mana and then die. So I think I like this more. Price of Progress is kind of interesting as well. Let's see what we're taking out. Needlehead seems great here. Removal spells that don't hit creatures. Oh, sorry, burn spells that don't hit creatures seem like they should probably want to go out. So we get rid of this Boltwave. We'll probably call it on a couple of copies of Monstrous Rage. It has been an awkward one. The Lavamancer is pretty good here. We could take out the Lava Spikes if we want to keep these Price of Progress in, or we could just have 1 Price of Progress. Maybe we can chain one of these out for 1 price. Okay, I think we maybe could have won that game if we played it differently. Tan seems fine to me. We can get in with a Goblin Guide. We have 3 lands that one of them can redraw when we need it later on, which is a nice place to be. I am considering running a build that has more Fiery Islet style cards in. So we have more lands. So we can just curve out and then just recycle these lands. That is something I will be trying in a future video for Burn, unless this video does absolutely horribly, I guess. Because we have the Searing Blaze that we can use at interesting times with this fetch land, I'm not going to fetch land to put stuff in the graveyard with the Grim Lavamancer just yet. I've been thinking about this Goblin guy in the stack for a while. Maybe they don't have a removal spell. Which is pretty good for our creature heavy draw. Or maybe they were just getting a drink or something. You never know. A Flusterstorm. Alright, anything that interacts with our burn spells, I understand, opponent. Tundra. I'm going to attack with this Goblin Guide and see what our opponent wants to do. I would like to Razorkin Needlehead here. He drew a Polluted Delta. They're going to plow our guy. They are going to plow our guy. So now we can get in our Razorkin Needlehead instead. Enjoy drawing extra cards, opponent. Or just daze this and make me sad. They are on the Stoneblade build because they are running dazes. Okay, they're pitching the Flusterstorm. Razorkin Needlehead has met a Force of Will every single time we've cast it, I think. No, it got Fatal Push once. But our opponent has answered it every single time on the turn it entered play or entered the stack. I think that is probably a sign that it does some work. They're going to get Battle Skull. Of course. Am I playing around... We're playing around Daze. But they didn't Daze our last spell. So are we pushing damage here? We can push damage by playing the Swiftspear out before we play out the Searing Blaze. That gets us an additional damage out of the Searing Blaze. But plays into Daze they could have drawn off the top. Am I willing to take that shot? Because they didn't Daze before. They've had one mystery card. I think I'm willing to take that hit. Do we get to swipe away this Mystic? They had a second Force of Will, so the illusion of choice was very much there. Understood. So now we have to deal with this Battle Skull, but we have these Smashed Smithereens in our deck that can just blow it up. They can bounce it and replay it later on, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. A Razorkin Needlehead. I will deploy the Razorkin Needlehead. I will deploy the Grim Lavamancer, paying a point of life. The reason for doing this is we do have Searing Blaze in our deck still. The first strike of the Razorkin Needlehead means that blocking with the Battle Skull is awkward sometimes, because we can... Well, it's going to be awkward all the time because we can just Lavamancer it. So they can't block if we attack with our Needlehead. But they have a 4/4 lifelink guy that's just going to be attacking us every turn. But maybe they forget about the first strike on Needlehead. Well, there's a card you don't see very often, so I imagine they're probably going to put some emphasis on actually reading this card and working out what it does. It's the cards that you see some of the times and you kind of think you know what they are, and then you just miss like a single line of text on it and you go, oh no, that's horrible. Okay, Meticulous Archive for our opponent. We've got some food for a Price of Progress. We can do some reasonable damage with it. A double Force of Will here definitely has caused us some great issues. It's the Riddler. Are they going to stifle to keep this in? Or are they just going to enjoy a nice little card and move on? Okay, this is the moment that we hope our opponent makes a mistake. Oh, that's very good, isn't it? Let's smash to smithereens this Battle Skull. We can get in an attack. I can shoot this guy now. We'll go to attacks first, I think. And then I will shoot this guy. Is one of my creatures getting ploughed here? Applying the Needlehead. Makes sense, that guy does build up a lot of damage over time. We put our opponent to 8 after they hit us with a Battle Skull. So we're not in a bad position. I don't think they have more life gain in their deck for us to care about. But they can just play a 4/6 here. Which is pretty large. They've got 5 mana. Just play out your Riddler. That's going to block very effectively on this board. Although we might be able to do some weird stuff if we draw a Monstrous Rage, because that does make your creatures quite large. Another Stoneforge Mystic. Well, they know that this is going to just die, right? So what are they getting? A pre-war Formalware. This can get back something else in a second. Or it can get back another Stoneforge right now. And that Stoneforge is going to be bigger. Understood. And this Stoneforge gets them the Meteor Sword, I would assume. Which should be the last equipment in their deck. They're not going to have anything like a Jitte or a Cauldra. I guess they could have Cauldra. You tend not to see it now. We're going to hold back the Mesa for the reasons we mentioned before in terms of Searing Blaze. Yes, I reveal this Thunderous Wrath. I will cast this Thunderous Wrath at your face. Enjoy a big heap of damages. I think I'm okay to draw a card with this now. It's a Price of Progress. That's pretty good, isn't it? So we can shoot our opponent for 2 damage with our Lavamancer and then another 2 damage. So this Lavamancer has been good for 6 damages. Well, it's going to be good for at least 4 damages. Possibly 6. I'm going to come in with your Vigilance guy. Be my guest. So they're probably going to Meteor Sword and blow up our Grim Lavamancer. But we still get to put them to 1, and we have lethal damage in hand. Our opponent could have Force of Will. A Wasteland, that's very good against Price of Progress, but Price of Progress only needs to deal 1 damage. Okay, the Wasteland has been tapped, so that's not going to work either. What are we putting in here? Do you have another random equipment? It is just a Meteor Sword. I'll target this guy. I'm going to shoot your face. And I'm going to equip it to this guy. They could have done this pre-combat and got more damage in. They have 1 card in hand, so they are dead. 2, 4, 6, 8 damage, please. Boom. Alright, that felt pretty good. Our plan to deal with the Battle Skull was effective. Do we want to do anything differently here? Our Price of Progress might not be as good next time around, is the thing. Because our opponent's likely to have that in their mind now, so they're going to keep up their Wastelands for their own stuff. They probably only have 2 basics, but they can fetch those 2 basics to play around. So this is not going to do anything until we get deep into the game, which means having 2 is probably the right number. Fireblast does kill a Battle Skull in a pinch if we need it to. 3 lands is a little bit more than I would like, but we have some good stuff. We also have a way of making sure that we have a removal spell we can point at the Stoneforge. We don't get to make sure that it works, but we can at least give it a go. This is a pretty telegraphed looking Swords to Plowshares. But it might not be. They might just have Stifle. I suspect we're getting this plowed though. Could be a Hydroblast as well, which we just have to work through at some point anyway. But if they're plowing this, they're not plowing our Needlehead. They didn't want to plow this. Is that because they don't have a plow, or they're more worried about our creatures like Needlehead? If they play a Stoneforge here, we Chain Lightning before we Swiftspear, but we don't have to do that right now. That's good. I think I'm going to play out the Swiftspear, and I think I'm willing... Am I willing to play into a Daze? I don't think I am, actually. If they show us something, we can always Lightning Bolt. Also, keeping 2 removal spells for the Stoneforge, which is pretty much their whole plan to win this game, makes a lot of sense. They also have the option of Failure at end step here. I'm not just going to immediately fire off a removal spell on Failure. I don't care about Failure unless it's blinking something really scary. If they've got something really scary like a Stoneforge, I'd rather just blow that up with a Lightning Bolt. It's a Quantum Riddler. So this means we want to Lightning Bolt this because we're not going to get through a 4/6 blocker with our creature heavy draw. This Failure dies, which we hope it does. Fingers crossed. They do have Pyroblast mana open. It's a Daze. Yep. So now they're going to get a 4/6 into play. So there are 2 decks that have this play pattern in them at the moment. There's the Blue-White Stoneblade deck and also the Bant Beans deck. They both have this lever of being really aggressive and just putting in 6 power into play on turn 3. And that's just incredibly strong. Whilst also having a bit of a control game. Obviously the Bant Beans deck is a full control deck. The Stoneblade is kind of tempo-y. It's got control elements and can play a long game and try and grind people out with things like Meteor Sword. But generally speaking, this pressure angle that the deck has is real scary for us. And they're drawing a million cards every turn as well. Which is both good and bad. Because we can just Needlehead them. But they're going to have removal spells. This is an option where we can shoot the Failure. Do I want to shoot the Failure? You can't shoot a Stoneforge. But I think if they had Stoneforge, they would have played it last turn. Alright, let's just try and nail this Failure. We don't get to attack this turn unless we're willing to push 2 damage at the cost of our guy. Which we might be willing to do, actually. And how useful are these Swiftspears going to be moving forward? Not very. So I think getting in 2 damage is reasonable here. So this means that this Swiftspear has effectively dealt, like, 1 damage. That's not great. But this one gets to deal a full bolt's worth and gets to attack again next turn. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. But they didn't kill our Needlehead. That is interesting to me. So we could have just left the Failure around, but I think our opponent's ability to like just phase out our guys, if they want to stifle them from coming back in, triggering all the other stuff that they do with their deck, I don't think it's worth having it. And it also beats down for a huge amount because it grows every turn. So now our opponent's drawn this Stoneforge. I do think that they didn't have this until this turn, because I think you would play this over the Riddler. And they've drawn a lot of cards, so the Riddler probably drew them into the Stoneforge. Not attacking. And they got the Battle Skull, yeah. A Chain Lightning, you say? I would like to Chain Lightning this Stoneforge Mystic, please. I'm going to play this land out so we can play around a Daze, and then I'm going to drop the Needlehead. So our opponent's taking 2 damage a turn, so we've got our Build Your Own Sulfuric Vortex in play. And this does shut off a bunch of their... Well, it doesn't shut them off, but it makes a bunch of their like really good cards worse, like Brainstorm and stuff. So we're still pinging them with the Needlehead. Only 1 a turn now because they ploughed it. But they're not going to attack us. Another Stoneforge? Prismatic Ending, sure. So next turn, if they have a land, they get to Batterskull us, and that is an issue. We're not going to crack this because of Searing Blaze. Do I like this Chain Lightning? Am I holding it for prowess? I think I'm holding it for prowess because we have a lot of mana anyway. Now, opponent having 6 power on turn 2 with Daze backup was just a little bit much. Well, actually, it's 7 power, isn't it? Right? A Tamiyo. Don't love that for us. Definitely don't love that for us either. What are they going to be able to get back? Plow, so that's effectively 4 life in an emergency because they can hit their Riddler with it. They can also get back removal spells like Prismatic Ending if they're worried about us having Roiling Vortex or something. And they can just get back the Daze. Daze seems pretty bad though. They might just be going to the top rope with the old Tamiyo. Might be shuffling this Batterskull back in, but I suspect they want to keep this because another land just makes it hard castable. We might lose this game because of the misplay in round 1. Okay, so now we have our Swiftspear. Do we go face or do we go after Tamiyo? I don't think we beat the clock of the Riddler if we start going after Tamiyo here. So we get put 4 damage into our opponent right now. That puts them at a multiple of 3. So 3 draw steps may be enough. But this is going to kill us in 3 turns. But maybe the Swiftspear getting in extra damage could be useful. If our opponent has a failure, that's a lot of damage. Attack our opponent. It's only 1 damage. They can just failure and chump block, and not chump block this. They can just stop that from doing any damage. Okay, another land. So they're just going to immediately play this Batterskull. So Shattering Spree is our best draw. Sorry, Smash the Smithereens, not Shattering Spree. That's a different piece of artifact here that we're not playing. Can we draw? If we can draw that, we might be odds on to win here. Okay, they're just going up again. They might not attack this turn. Okay, they are attacking this turn. Monstrous Rage. So this will be +3, +4. So this will kill the Phyrexian Germ token. I guess that's what we're doing. Attacking our opponent here. I'm definitely going to take this block. Because they can just equip this to the Quantum Riddler anyway. So we're going to end up with like a dead board. Okay, sure. So we lost this round, which is obviously the theme of today. However, we did learn a few things. I think we're supposed to hit that Stoneforge Mystic in game 1. So I think maybe a mistake is what cost us this one, rather than the deck necessarily. Our opponent having the 7 power on turn 3 with Daze was definitely an issue for us though. Alright, on to the final round to avoid the reverse trophy. Okay, 1 landers. We've been keeping them. We're going to continue doing so. 3, 6, 9, and additional damages. Wooded Foothills. Let's crack this. Let's go and get ourselves a mountain. In with the guide. And we're bashing away. A Misty Rainforest. What flavour of Misty Rainforest deck are you? A Tamiyo. That doesn't really narrow it down. Am I just going to Chain Lightning this Tamiyo? I think so. It gets us damage in with our Goblin Guide as well. A Ponder on top, sure. Flooded Strand. Still not a land. That is awkward for us. We can get some repeatable sources of damage in. We're a quarter of the way through our opponent's life total, and we might make another big chunk into it this turn. A Leyline Binding. So our opponent is almost certainly on the Felia Beans deck. So we're going to see a Felia probably come in here and gobble up the Monastery Swiftspear. And then they're going to... Okay, they're not doing that, they're just ploughing. That's better for us. So they shuffled away, so they're not drawing Leyline Binding. They have assembled the Bant Trifecta. Grim Lavamancer. I think we are going to Boltwave and get some damages in with our Swiftspear. I don't think I'm about the Lavamancer just yet. Because if this connects, then we have lethal damage in our hand. Okay, so they did draw a Leyline Binding anyway. If they crack 1 fetch land, we have lethal in hand that we can actually cast over the course of 3 turns. And that obviously gets sped up the more we draw lands. A Ponder. A Xander's Lounge. And a Beanstalk. There's a Beanstalk. Razorkin Needlehead. Pretty good into Beanstalk, as it turns out. Let's see if we can do that, though. There could be some lands in our deck. Yes, I reveal Thunderous Wrath. Yes, I will point this at my opponent's dome. So the thing about this, if our opponent Force of Wills, it puts them in range of Triple Bolt. So that's what's happening here. We should have enough time to leverage our cards, and our opponent's deck doesn't really gain much life. So we should be okay on that front. Tamiyo, obviously, a pretty good Magic the Gathering card. A Goblin Guy, that's not what I'm about. Let's Chain Lightning our opponent's face. They have red, but not red, so they can't send this back. Not that we really care about our life total in this matchup. Unless our opponent has one of the Felia Riddler starts. And then we do care about our life total. Alright, our opponent's dead to 2 bolts. And what do we have in hand? 2 bolts and some other stuff. If they attack with the Tamiyo, we can try and get in with the Goblin Guide. Fireblast. I think I'm going to Chain Lightning my opponent again. Goblin Guide doesn't deal a multiple of 3, so that's not great. Okay, we're getting a Force of Will on our Chain Lightning. So now Goblin Guide plus Lava Spike is lethal. Doing a reasonable job for being on 1 mana, but I think if we'd have drawn a second land early, we would have won this game by now, which is a phrase I have said before today. So I think we are going to be looking at changing up the mana base of our deck for the next iteration of this little experiment into Burn World. So now they have Hardcast Force of Will. Okay, they're tapping out of Hardcast Force of Will for the Riddler. Sure. We have a Fireblast, which obviously deals a lot of damage. This is going to flip the Tamiyo. So next turn they can get back a Force of Will to Hardcast. So I would like to have a good turn this time. A land would be great. Not a land. What are we doing? Are we Lava Spiking our opponent to 2? Or are we playing out the Lavamancer? They've used 2 removal spells. The chances are they have other removal spells. I think I'm just going to go to face and assume that we can string together a bunch of burn spells before our opponent kills us. This can go to Planeswalkers, but I'm not interested in that. Okay, our opponent's at 2 life. Fetch lands are real spooky for our opponent. So they might have some fetch lands in hand they're just not playing. Brainstorm is good. I'm surprised they didn't brainstorm in response, because maybe they could find something that changes the way they want to handle that Chain Lightning going to face. Sorry, the Lava Spike going to face. Okay, just cracking another clue. We get it, opponent. You've drawn many, many cards. If we draw a land, we can play 2 lethal threats. Because the Goblin Guide can attack once for 1 and then attack again. So what do they get back there? I assume it was a Force of Will. They return swords to plowshares. Okay, so we're not trying to kill their creatures. They are trying to kill their own creature is what that says to me. Okay, they're just playing their own creature while we're tapped out. I don't hate that for us. Yes, I will Thunderous Wrath our opponent. To the dome. We have to wait for the miracle trigger to cast first. There we go. Our opponent's at 1 life. No fetch lands for our opponent. Goblin Guide is lethal. Maybe we found a good matchup. After all this time. They don't even know about our Razorkin Needleheads. Brainstorm. They can't shuffle off of Brainstorms because they can't use fetches. If we get a land, I want to go Goblin Guide into Lavamancer, I think. They have Hardcast Force of Will mana. I'm tapping out of that for just another Beanstalk. Maybe we're really going to get our opponent with these Razorkin Needleheads in game 2 or 3. Come on, deck. Why would I draw a mountain? Alright, Goblin Guide. Can you attack for 1 point of damage and win the game? Or are they just going to draw a card for free and then plow this guy? What are they drawing? Alright, Leyline Binding. And then we get to see what the card is. Another Beanstalk. So in that one game, we drew a third of our lands in 14 cards. This time we've drawn 1 of our lands. An 18th of our lands. That's incredible. They didn't get back the Force of Will. That probably means they have another one. Our opponent could deck out here. That's possible. Teferi Time Raveler. Are they going to bounce? There's nothing they really want to bounce. So they could bounce their own Beanstalk. If they're worried about decking. Also, they can just replay it and get more cards. That's reasonable. I don't think they're going to be bouncing their own Leylines. They're just plussing. Giving themselves some counters on their Teferi. A Lava Spike. I don't think this Lava Spike is going to resolve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is like the most obvious Force of Will I've ever seen. So I think I'm going to play a Grim Lavamancer. They can bounce this out of play. I definitely think the variance on the lands we've been drawing in the league today is a little bit out. Like, I'm not just going to be one of those people who's like, oh, we just got unlucky. Like, there's definitely some flaws in our deck, and that's what we're trying to hammer out. But within this, there are definitely some issues of getting screwed and flooded a bit. And I think we have a solution to fix that for the next build. Right, they found a win condition. This is probably going to target them. Oh, it's going to target us. Interesting. We're putting that Thunderous Wrath back in our deck. Not that it really matters. Look at our Lonely Mountain and look at all of these permanents our opponent has. The Teferi is really good against Thunderous Wrath. So putting it back into our deck is nice because we can't miracle any spells while Teferi's in play. So I think we all know the card that is on top of our library right now is going to be another Thunderous Wrath. We're going to see the Riddler come down. We are. Our opponent probably has 2 endurances, so they can't deck very easily. They can also bounce their endurance and then replay it if they're worried about decking. Caracas doesn't bother us. Just 1 life is so annoying that our opponent is on. I think we were right to kill the Tamiyo right at the start. But if we'd have had that damage to the face, maybe this game is different, but maybe our opponent just has enough cards that we never get to resolve anything. Okay, let's just Lava Spike you. They don't have hard cast Force of Will. Pitch casting doesn't seem great. Sure, you can ply your own guys. That doesn't feel great for our opponent. But you got to do what you got to do sometimes. This also means that they have Force of Will available as a pitch cast now, because they are on 2 life. Kind of a big deal. They've got Tamiyo going big, but drawing half their deck here doesn't do anything. They might bounce their Endurance at some point, put their deck back in their graveyard back in their deck, and then draw half their deck. But having cards in hand isn't really our opponent's problem. Uro, that's the one, isn't it? That's what's going to beat us here. Again, we are many cards into our deck now. Obviously, we had our cards Endurance back in, but I think we must be a third of the way through our deck, and we've seen 1 land. I think we can feel a bit aggrieved by that. And they can just keep Karakas and bouncing this Uro. Oh, this is horrible. I think 99% of the time, with how the first, 6 turns of this game went, we win this game. But we just found this one little sliver of just never hitting land until it's too late. Or not even then. Lava Spike you. The problem is they can just gain more life than we can deal every turn now because of the Karakas. So they just go Uro, and if they need more life, they can just replay the Uro. They're going to play it from graveyard this time. Uro. Yep. They bounce the Endurance, so they can replay it and shuffle their graveyard in now. Right, they're drawing most of their deck. I don't think they can deck here, but it's certainly possible. There's not that many cards in their graveyard. They do have 17 cards in their hand, though. That's where all the cards are. It's now turn 14, so we've seen 20 cards of our deck, and we finally find another mountain. We are running mountains, but it's too late. Let's at least punish them for drawing some cards a little bit, but again, they can just bounce this. I don't think our opponent can lose this game. I guess we find out. The deck our opponent's playing is the best control deck in Legacy. I think it's the only properly viable control deck, in my opinion. Some of the other ones are okay stats-wise, but this one actually has some pretty respectable numbers. Swords 2, Plowshares. So our opponent going to mill out. They've got 4 cards left in their library, so they're probably just going to play the Endurance. But they're only putting 11 cards back on the bottom, and they have triple Beanstalk. So they could be drawing 4 cards a turn. 5 cards including the Euro. So that's just 3 turns. Now, this is going to be enough damage to kill us, but if we just put guys in the way, then maybe we get through this. They have 1 Leyline Binding left as well. Monstrous Rage is not really the one we want here. Our plan is... I guess they're not going to deck because they're just going to Endurance, but if they don't have enough stuff in their graveyard, maybe that costs them the game. Okay, this is Prismatic Ending. They have 9 damage in play right now. Can't believe we lost this game. Our deck just could not draw mountains. Our plan is to deck our opponent rather than burn them out, which is not really what I signed up for when I registered this deck today. We have a play. It's horrible, but it's the one we're doing. Let's try and kill this Endurance. They can just hard cast Force of Will. They've got plenty of cards in their library to make this work. They've got main deck Force of Negation by the looks of it. They do. Alright, we are very dead. The Teferi can just bounce the Razorkin Needlehead. Okay, I think we should have won that game, but we didn't. And we just have to live with that for the rest of our days. I don't think anything we did was the reason we lost, though. So we could have not hit the Tamiyo, but by hitting the Tamiyo, we got at least 4 damage in with the Goblin Guide, I think, right? So, kind of worth. Or did we only get 2 damage in with the Goblin Guide? In which case, the extra 1 damage we got off the burn cell might have been enough. Interesting. Okay, so we have a bunch of stuff I'm interested in. What do I not like? I'm going to chill on Thunderous Wrath since we've seen the Teferi. So I'm going to take one of those out. This doesn't feel like a Grim Lavamancer matchup either. The Monstrous Rage feels a little bit sketchy into all the removal our opponent's packing. So I guess we just chill on those as well. This should be a matchup we have a lot of game into. We can be very aggressive. And our opponent doesn't have great life gain. I'm not going to stop keeping 1-landers now. This is the world we're in. Let's bash. Next turn we can Lava Spike. I think we Boltwave first because Lava Spike can obviously hit Planeswalkers. He's going to play a Tamiyo out here. Just a Prismatic Ending. Okay. Yes, I would like to shoot you for 5 this turn, please. We got a Force of Will out of it. Pitching into Teferi, which would stop future ones. We have not got another land yet, though. That is a Hedge Maze. A Scalding Tarn. Would you look at that? It's a land. It's an actual factual land. Let's Lava Spike you. We got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if they play another non-basic, we have lethal damage in hand. We just need to make sure that it actually gets converted into damage and doesn't get countered. I like where we're at here. You can brainstorm. Meticulous Archive. All right. Our price progress is looking pretty banging. Wouldn't mind... Oh, a Thunderous Wrath. Sure. That's a pretty good one. This will certainly take out some interaction if our opponent has it. Okay, they didn't have it. We get to lightning bolt them. They are dead to bolt next turn. They can Uro. Is the one way that they can save themselves from lightning bolt right now. Quantum Riddler is not it though. I would like to find a land so I can go bolt and price. Alright, we're just ploughing our own guy. A Bloodstained Mire. I would like to lightning bolt you, please. We've seen Force of Negation out of our opponent. Do we play around that? If they have Hydroblast, they have Hydroblast already. If they have Force of Negation, would I like them to pay 2 cards for it? Or would I like them to play... Would I like them to pay 2 cards? I think I'd rather they pay 2 cards if that's what they have. Bam. Alright, they have the Force of Will, but this puts them to a multiple of 3. So a large portion of our deck does kill our opponent off the top. Obviously they're going to play like Uro here and it's going to mess us up. But I think if they had Uro, they might have played it last turn, but they have drawn an additional card, 2 additional cards since then. Another Riddler. This is going to draw them 2 cards because they're Hellbent. Please don't draw Uro. They might just plow their own Riddler. Are they going to bounce their own Riddler here? They are. That's what I would do as well. We're going to draw Thunderous Wrath now. Actually, we can't draw Thunderous Wrath because we've boarded the 3rd one out. Beautiful stuff. Can I Lava Spike you to death? We can! Alright, that feels like how this matchup's supposed to go most of the time. Let's have a little think. Do I want to do anything differently? No. I think we're going to submit this. 2 lands. Wow. My cup runneth over. Is this the one where we just draw nothing but lands, maybe? This is for the dignity of the burn deck. I don't really want to draw more lands. So I'm going to crack this to slightly reduce the percentage of lands we have in our deck. Let's Boltwave. Step 1, Boltwave. Step 2, Razorkin Needlehead. This Monstrous Rage could end up being pretty stinky in our hand though. Do I want to play a Needlehead out into obvious removal mana? Probably not. So we're just going to go for this Goblin Guide and see what happens. I'm expecting this to die, to be honest. I'm not just going to burn a Monstrous Rage unless I can definitely convert it. Okay, they're going to brainstorm so they get an extra card here. Would you look at that? They got an extra land. And now they're going to try and get rid of this with a Source to Plowshares, I would imagine. It goes. I'm willing to convert a Lightning Bolt here. 4, 5, 6, 7 damage in hand plus a Needlehead. So we're going to need a little bit more from our deck. Why are you doing this to me, Uro? I assume they're going to put in this trot that we know about. There we go. They don't have white mana available right now, so this is likely to get hit off unless they kill it in their upkeep. This mitigates some of the Uro damage. It's a pretty reasonable target for Monstrous Rage because of the first strike. Alternatively, it dies immediately. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're pretty close to bringing back Uro, which is not what we want to see happening. Now, we do have Price of Progress to just dome our opponent later on. They're going to have to get a non-basic off of this one. Let us Chain Lightning our opponent. And then I guess we're in the Lightning Bolt mode here. This fetch land gives them Uro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This sucks. Yep. It's going to put them up to 14. I could try and kill this Uro. But at what cost? Should we draw? A Monastery Swiftspear. They do have access to a plains here. If we drop the Swiftspear, this is going to give it +4. So it's going to be a 4-5. And then we can Lightning Bolt their face. And it's a 5-6. So we have to Lightning Bolt the Uro. Well, I guess this is what we're having to do. Lightning Bolt the Uro and we have Trample makes sense. There's lots of ways that this 1 white mana blows us out. And not even blocking. Alright, let's just get blown out, I guess. And then we probably have to kill this Uro. A Force of Negation. Okay. Lightning Bolt the Uro. Grab our guy. If we get Source to Plowshares at the end of this chain, I'm going to feel real sad. Back down to 1 land as we like it. Force of Negation. Yep, you had 2 Force of Negations there, opponent. Yuck. Disgusting. They only run 2 Uros in their deck as well, I think. It's 1 or 2 arrows. I can't remember the exact number. But it's not a lot. But they're obviously looking at opening hands based on Euro gaming. I do not believe we can win this game. Beanstalk. And a Quantum Riddler, drawing 1,000,000 cards. Do I think there's any chance of us winning this game? No, they're just not going to play out other lands. We're just going to scoot this one up. Okay, so we lost that match in game 1. Like, our deck can afford to give up one of the game 2 or 3s to our opponent, you know, having some scary lifelink thing, like when we got bodied by the Batterskull in the previous round. What we can't do is afford to have a thing where we just don't draw the mana. Like, if we'd have drawn the land in game 1, we easily smash our opponent. Game 2 was an absolute slaughter. And we can, you know, then we don't even have to play this game 3. All right. Unfortunately, our league went 0-5. Now, we were 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. So we were winning games, and some of the games we lost were ridiculously close. Like, our opponent had 1 life at several points, and we lost. And we just bricked off on our draws a lot. We got mana screwed a couple of times. We got mana flooded as well. So I can definitely say that we were a bit unfortunate. But there's plenty of things we can learn to improve the deck. And let's have a look at the deck. So, Monstrous Rage looked really great, and then it started looking really bad. And then as the game went on, it looked worse and worse. Now, our opponent did have to interact with this. Well, they didn't have to interact with it in the last round, but they chose to. So maybe Monstrous Rage isn't something we want to have 4 of. Maybe it's something we don't even want to have at all. Or we play more 1-drop creatures to make Monstrous Rage better. That is another option that is available to us, which I quite like the idea of. In terms of Razorkin Needlehead, our opponents always wanted to be answering this every single time. This was the card that got the most interaction from our opponents, and I think that says something, that this card can do a lot of work, especially when everyone's playing loads of things that draw 1,000,000 cards. Thunderous Wrath was excellent, and I was quite happy with having 3 in the deck. I think I will probably play 3 in the next time we do it. Grim Lavamancer was okay. Against the decks with Orcish Bowmasters, it was bad. Against the decks without Orcish Bowmasters, it was doing like 4 damage worth of stuff. That's good for 1 card. I'll take that. Do we need 3? Do we need them at all? Do we want to try and have more aggressive 1-drops to leverage Monstrous Rage instead? That is an option. And we're going to be experimenting with all these options. I think the main thing of learning for today, for me personally, is that next time I play Burn, I do not want to play 18 lands. 18 lands is the stock amount. And what you have to do is you have to run the Razor's Edge if you're running 18 lands. And we got screwed and lost rounds that we shouldn't have lost. Like, there was 2 rounds where if we didn't get screwed, we would have won the round. And I think we have to just raise up the floor of this deck a little bit. So I'm going to go up to 20 lands, but I'm going to put those extra lands in as Fiery Islet style lands, so that we have the ability to cast our spells, but also can ditch them later on into being lands, into being spells, when we have enough lands. That does mean we're going to be a little bit less likely to cast a Fireblast than if they were all mountains, but we're already running 4 Fireblasts with our 9 mountains, so why not run 4 Fireblasts with 9 mountains, but just have some extra lands as well. The thing about using these lands is when we have more of them, we need to be very aware of Thunderous Wrath, because if we draw this in our opponent's turn, then we can Thunderous Wrath. If we do it in our turn, we can't, because we've already drawn our card for turn. So that's going to be something we have to look out for. For the next iteration of this deck, I'm not 100% sure what I want to go for. I might go for the build, we're definitely doing the more lands, we might go for a build with more aggressive stuff and see how good Monstrous Rage is. Like, what is the best we can do with Monstrous Rage? Is that worth playing? And if it isn't, then we can rule out Monstrous Rage as a tool that we want to have access to. Like, when it looked good today, it looked very, very good. So I think the ceiling of this card is worth playing, but we need to establish what our deck needs to look like for the floor of this card to be okay. So that's what we're probably going to look at next time. Maybe we have to ease off Razorkin Needlehead next time, even though this was answered every time by our opponents. If we just have a bunch of 1-drop guys and then burn spells, maybe that's an interesting way of trying it out. So that's probably what I'm going to go for today. I think even though the results weren't great, we had lots of really good learning and there were some interesting games. We made a play mistake, in my opinion, by not Fireblasting the Stoneforge Mystic or trying to push damage. If they didn't have days, then that's definitely the right line, but they obviously had the days, and we could have suspected they had a days and worked around it. So I think that's probably what I'd be looking to do next turn. Maybe tighten up the play with those tiny little bits like that. Maybe respect Stoneforge Mystic a little bit more. Now, we were certainly a little bit unfortunate running into like Barrogoyf deck, combo deck with life gain that kills you like on turn 2, and then Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull deck. So there's a lot of like life gain going around, and I do wish that Barragoyf didn't exist, but here we are. If you have any thoughts about this or any little ideas, any like 1-drop creatures that would be worth playing here to save me going searching for them, by all means let me know. And let me know if you want me to keep iterating on burn. If you don't like this, let me know. If you do like trying to take a deck and then over the course of a few months trying to make it better, if you like that, let me know too. And obviously like and share the video to people, because that will help the algorithm and it'll let me know that people are actually interested in this, and I can just make more of these videos. But yes, next time we're going to be trying to do something different with burn, going a bit more like Sly style, where we have more aggressive creatures and we're trying to leverage things like Monstrous Rage a little bit more, and we'll see how that pans out for us. Alright, we are done for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, of course, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.